and I helped her a lot. She had cancer, and I liked her, and people always thought I was her daughter. And she was the one who helped me. I mean, I started to work also while I was going to school, but she helped me with the economics, so it's always something that helped me out. And she died, and she gave me money she had money in her will.
When life's visible and hidden battles make you doubt that peace, love, and full-on living are possible, We Win Within brings the proof. Guests crack open their great stories that may overlap with what each of us carries, sharing raw truths, hard-won discoveries, and triumphs that illuminate the road for us all. I'm Hindy Stegman, daughter of Holocaust survivors, speaker, coach, and fellow journeyer in life, inviting you to listen, look inside, and claim the champion already rising in your heart. So hi, everybody. I'm Hindy Stegman, and I'm your host for another We Win Within. And today we have an amazing guest. Her name is Ynge Lyung. And I've known Ynge for probably 20 some odd years. And she's such a dynamic woman, and her journey is going to be so incredible. So pay attention. And of course, as always, Ynge, I'm going to give it to you, and we're going to ask you, start at your childhood and tell us your story of how you came to where you are today.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
When we look back, I was born in 1938, so it's a few years ago. And it was before the war. I was born in Sweden. And of course, I didn't know anything about the war more than that we didn't really have much food. And it was cold. The winters were very cold during that time. But everything gets natural. You don't know any difference when you grow up, what is too much or too little.
Was it a loving home, Ynge?
It was, what shall I say? My father was an actor. And when I was born, he was a famous movie star in Little Sweden.
Wow. Okay.
And he married my mother. She was 22 years old when they got married, and he was 29, I think. And she was from Germany. She had her adopted father sent her to his parents when she was 17, when Hitler came. He saw what was coming. And they were not Jewish. So she ended up with his grandparents, who were old. She didn't speak Swedish. She was Lutheran, very, very, very religious. So I think that was one part why she got married so early. And also, she got pregnant, like I was born a year and a month after they got married. And I don't think she really had counted on that, because they had kind of a little, at that time, in 37, 38, still a glamorous life. She was beautiful, and they would go to parties, and they would have premieres in the theater, because he was also on the scene. And I think that she did not really want to get pregnant when she did. And then she had 3 kids in less than 3 years.
Wow.
So they were busy. But I think she was disappointed. It was all of a sudden, she was reduced a little. She was not that admired, beautiful woman, because she had to more or less stay home. I know that, of course, they went out to premieres, but it was not the same way. Plus, with the war came less money. And my father, he traveled a lot, entertaining the troops. At that time in Sweden, we had, like they used to have in Switzerland, every man had to do his service for a year and a half. So he entertained the troops, so he was not really home very much. And of course, very little money. So my mother had to work. And what I remember of my parents together, that they either were so much in love with each other, or they were like cats and dogs. So you would never really know what was going on. And I missed my father extremely. I was very, very attached to him. So it was a strange time in a way. But as I said,
do you think you were affected, being the firstborn child, by your mother's, I'm going to use the word resentment, maybe that's the wrong word, about getting pregnant? Did you feel that energetically?
I didn't really see her much because she was working all day. We had a nanny. Another thing was that my sister, when she was 3, she got TB and was in a sanatorium for a year and a half. So I was 5 years old, and I had the responsibility for my brother, which was, I think, something that has played through my life in a weird way, with men, that I had to take care of them. So, for example, so he was 2 years old. He was heavier than I was. I was 5, and I had to take him out in the daytime to walk him like a dog. I had a thing on him, like a dog.
A leash?
A leash, yeah. And we went up to, this is in Stockholm, and it was very hilly. And up on the hill, quite a big hill for me at that time, at least. I haven't seen it since. Everything was like a waterfall, frozen waterfall. And of course, he wanted to go and look over the edge. And I couldn't hold him because it was ice. So he started to fall. I had to let him go because I knew if I fell, I couldn't help him. So I had to run around, pick him up, carry him home. And our nanny was there, who, by the way, she had fled from, what is that, Prussia? Where she was a landowner and left everything. So she had no kids, so she had no really experience with kids either. So she gave, I don't know, I don't think she hit me, but she yelled at me, and it was my fault because he developed hernia. So he had to be operated. And that was, of course, my fault. And when you think back, 5 years old is not really much.
No, it's not. To be responsible in that way, right?
Yeah. And also when there was, often when I went out, it was the planes were coming over, and the sirens were going, and we had to go into one of those bunkers.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody rushed into the bunkers, and he would scream the whole time we were there. And it was so embarrassing. But so that was, I don't remember much of that time. And my mother had certain ideas about children. She was an only child, by the way. And she never really had time for us. I don't remember seeing much of her.
So that must have been difficult. You didn't see much of your mother, and your father was off a lot.
So it was mostly together with my nanny and my brother. And then I got a little older. We start later in school, and at that time we didn't really have. If you could go to kindergarten if you wanted to, but if you didn't want to, you didn't have to. And I was supposed to go, but I never did. And then my father was supposed to start to work in the Malmö theater. So they sent me first because I should start school. He had like a 1-year contract. So this must have been in 45. And I got operated for my polyps in the nose. And I didn't wake up after the operation. So I had an afterlife or before death or whatever you want to call it experience.
Well, hold on a second. So how old were you at that point?
6 and almost 7, 6 and 3/4.
So as a little child, you had a polyps operation.
Mm-hmm.
And
I was living with my grandparents. I forgot to say that. So I was living because my family was still in Stockholm.
Okay. And so you didn't come out of the anesthesia right away? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. It took them. I didn't wake up until they didn't get me up to wake up until like 2 o'clock in the morning. And after that, I was bedridden for a year. So I never went to school. I was not 1 day in school. So I had a wonderful experience, though. I didn't want to come back. So I think that kind of helped. But I did. And I don't remember much of that year either, because I was in bed, slept a lot, and nobody knew what happened. And at that time, they didn't really try to figure out why either. And then I moved back to Stockholm with my brother. My sister was then shipped to my grandmother. I think she was very difficult. I think after having been not seeing her family for 1.5 years almost. And I didn't even remember I had a sister when she came back. So we were only the 2 of us there. And there I went to school. And it was like a very difficult year because I was bullied by 2 guys. They had the same name. They were both named Hans. And in Swedish, they say Hasse. And they would watch out for me. And when I came, they would attack me, both of them. So I would come home with torn clothes and stuff like that. So I figured out a way not to go to school. I would go to a library and borrow books. And then I would go in one of the buildings where the door was open, and you had to press to get the light, and then the light would go off after a while. So I would sit there in the stairs and read until my father got a bill. I had no clue you had to pay for it. But everybody knew who my father was, even though, I don't know how they figured out that. I guess I had to sign my name or something, but I don't know how could they do that at 7 years old and just let me get books that I would return, but kind of strange. So that year was not very happy, I must say. One thing happened, and also the teacher was, I guess, also very religious. And she thought I was the product of the devil because my father was an actor. So she bullied me too. And even hit me. So that was not so nice. But I survived that too. And then we really moved to Malmö, and school was fine. But money was very, very scarce.
So going back for a second, just for curiosity, so when you didn't go to school and you went to the library and took out books and would sit and read on your own, is that when your thirst for learning started?
I
Quietly?
I don't know, because I would read before I went to school. I guess that's lucky, because I didn't go to school for a whole year, the first year. I remember I would ask all the letters. I would, for example, we had, in Sweden, we use lump sugar, not like here. And we had those boxes. That's one of the things I remember. And I would ask whoever was there what that letter was. And then I put it together. That's how I started to learn how to read. Sounds funny, but and then my father saw I was interested, so he taught me when he was available. So I read when I was 5 without going to school. And then I always read. I always liked to read all my life, and not necessarily to learn. I read kind of all of stuff, all kinds of history, and I always liked biographies for some reason or other. I always thought it was very interesting to see how people, their lives, what they went through, and how they came to be who they were at the end.
So did you stay in Sweden until you were an adult?
Yeah, I grew up in Sweden, and my parents divorced when I was 17. I had been with my sister visiting in the summer, visiting relatives in Berlin. And when I came back, my mother was gone and my brother was gone. So she took him and moved. I mean, I knew they were fighting all the time. But it doesn't matter how your parents are. You love both your parents, and you want them together.
Sure.
So that was kind of a shock, really. I was 17 then. And
so did you continue did you go to college in Sweden?
No, I dropped out of school when my parents divorced. I dropped out of school and did other things. I went to a school for wives of bigger, it's not called landowner, farmers, kind of, and learned everything what you have to do to have a farm, and milk the cows, and bake and cook and all these things. And that's what I did. Met a guy and married one, and then went back to Malmo and worked for a while too in a research lab. Then I married the guy I met that was in the northern Sweden, which was a big mistake, of course. I was 21, just 21, and realized it was a mistake. So I went back to school because I had to compensate certain matters, and divorced, went back to Malmo, moved with my grandparents. My grandparents had a 3-story building, so I had an apartment there. Went back to school to become an engineer, chemical engineer. So that's when I went back to study. And in school, I met another guy, of course, and married him when I was 26. And I think part of why I married him was that he was tall. I'm tall. I like guys who are taller than I am.
Well, for me, that's not hard at 5'2".
No, but for me, it's not so easy. At that time, I was almost 6 feet. So, and he traveled. He worked. He wanted to work out in other countries. And I know when I was 10 years old, I always envied men because they could go out as sailors or whatever, and see the world. And as a girl, you couldn't do that. I always said, no, I'm never going to stay in Sweden. I was 10 years old, I said, because I always felt strange. I always felt like people looked at me as if I was a monkey from the zoo who had escaped. Because I was different I could not, as a kid, as a teenager, I was very rebellious. Everybody knew who I was. And everybody thought they knew me. You know how you read about people and you think you know them? You have no clue. I mean, there is nothing that.
But you had a reputation.
So I had a reputation, and of course I had to follow up to that. So
live up to the reputation.
And I couldn't keep quiet about certain things. And as a girl at that time, you were not supposed to be in opposition. You were not supposed to criticize teachers or say something that they shouldn't do something to other kids because that was not good, even though sometimes I think it was good for the teacher. But I had one, for example, who the teacher brought up to the blackboard at that time. And the kid was so nervous. And the teacher was just, go, and why are you so slow, and blah, blah, blah. And he was like this. So I told him, you're not nice. You're making him nervous. And he looked at me. At first, I think he was going to react negatively. So it took a few seconds, and then he started smiling and said, you're right.
So have you always spoken up?
For others, not for myself.
For
I've
others.
always spoken up for others.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes some kids have some kind of look different, or they have some problem, and kids are very easy to start to really be bad, be mad, what do I say, not nice to them. I mean, as if they don't have enough of their own problems, these poor kids.
So do you think that experiencing your own bullying, that you had been bullied, made you more empathic?
That is possible. I never thought about it that way, but that could be. Because, and how I got over that, it was, so I was at this point 7 years old. And these kids came, and I guess I told my father, they knew that I came home with ripped clothes. And so he was watching me when I went out to go to school. And he saw these two kids coming up to me, and he opened the windows and he said, yeah, give them, just defend, whatever he said, he egged me on. And first I was like paralyzed, and then it was like just something turned on in me, and I started to fight. He had told, my father showed me a bit about boxing. I got so mad and so wild, both of them ran. They never attacked me again. But it is possible that when you have been, and also with the teacher, her being so negative to me. For example, one day, the girl in front of me, she turned around, and at that time we had ink and whatever. She turned around and made a big cross on my notebook. And I took the notebook and said, oh, look what Ma did. And she gave me hit me. And it was not my fault. I thought I would get some help from her, but that was not happening. So that is very possible, that being in that situation, that innately it just stays with you in one way or another.
Well, I think that when we really look back, and no matter how old we are now, and tell the story of our childhood, we have these awarenesses of, oh, that's where that started.
Uh-huh.
Oh, it was because the teacher told me I was stupid, or, I was bullied, or I didn't get love from my mother or father. Whatever those little things were, we didn't verbalize them,
No,
but
no.
internally we internalized them.
Mhm.
And some of us became victims of our circumstances. Some of us stayed victims of our circumstances till today. And some of us at some point
Got over it.
worked on ourselves and actually used those things that were inside of us to help other people.
Yeah. I mean, most people, they have their experiences. And I mean, I got married the second time, and my husband, I was married to him for 25 years. And after a few years, I realized, I mean, he was an alcoholic. We lived in Bangladesh, which was then East Pakistan, for 2.5 years, where I had my second child and got pregnant with my third. That's a Muslim country, so there is no alcohol. So I didn't realize that he liked to drink because of that. So, so I was definitely a victim. We moved later on to Venezuela, where, of course, alcohol was very cheap. In Sweden, it's expensive because it's a lot of taxes, and you have to go to a special store to buy alcohol. So here I mean, you could buy the strong beer for nothing, and alcohol, as I said, that was very cheap, and that became a problem. And I know I was a victim. I felt like a victim. I was ashamed of him, and often when we went out, then he would treat the people who served him like, you know what, and I just wanted to sink through the floor. And
Was he abusive, Ynge?
he was verbally abusive and became also physically abusive, and also to the kids. It was a hard time. And I know I cried many tears, and I came to one day, I said, no, I am not going to cry for a man. And started to plan really for myself, for my future. So that's when I had started to I always wanted to do ceramics. I mean, I've always been painting or doing arts all my life. And I did very well. So I started a little workshop and started to sell my stuff. So I had a plan that I was going to work myself up so I could support myself and the kids. And so that's what happened. I divorced, and that was not easy. I think it's very few, unfortunately, very few divorces are happy.
How old were you when you had the courage to leave?
87, 49 when the divorce came through. So I started at 45. And I really started to try to get him to stop drinking. And he tried for a week, and then he said, no, I'm too old to stop. And I said, okay, I'm too young to die.
And this was in Venezuela?
Yeah, this was in Venezuela. So very tough time. And he finally left and went back to Sweden. I stayed and did my ceramics, and because he didn't pay anything, of course. So, and then the kids were big. They flew out, and And then I met the guy, of course, from the States, from here, from Miami. And eventually I moved here in 90 in December, so it's almost 91. And that did not work out at all. He was, if my husband was controlling, this guy was like 100 times more controlling. I could hardly go to the bathroom without him following me. And that was another hard time because I had nothing to go back to. I had rented my house, and I had no workshop. I had given away everything from the workshop for everything that I used. So I didn't really know what to do. And I was really in a very, very bad situation. I had no work permit. I had no money. The money I brought, that was, of course, he took care of that. And I lived on the beach in Bell Harbor. And I was sitting on the beach one day and I said, well, I can as well become shark food. That's how far it had gone. I didn't feel like a victim, but that was just, I didn't see any way out.
So you were thinking of suicide?
Yeah. And then I had an experience. I was sitting there, in yoga position, because that's how I always used to sit. And it was as if something had taken two cymbals, huge cymbals, and just smacked them over my ears. And it says, wow, 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 wow. And then a voice that said, what are you feeling sorry for yourself for? You still have rent paid for this month. You still have some food left in the fridge. Stop crying for yourself. So that woke me up. And I went up to my apartment, and things started to happen. Somebody helped me with the rent for the next month. I got a job, of course, under the table. I got a job because I'm fluent in German, and got back on feet. And I was also going to work. I lost that job because it was a kind of a scam thing with Aslam. I don't know if you remember the injections for getting younger. So they opened up a retreat kind of in Miami on the beach, and the owner of the company had, first of all, he smoked pot, and he smoked pot with his 16-year-old daughter, but that was a part. So it was just a weird kind of guy.
So what did you do when you lost that job?
So then when I lost that job, I was going to start to paint murals together with a friend. I was going to help him with the murals in Miami. And I tripped like one day before we were going to start and broke my wrist in 5 places. So I had to be operated, and I had these big things sticking out of my arm. And so I knew I couldn't do any, artwork on big walls and this was just before Andrew, the
hurricane.
Yeah.
Big hurricane we had in Florida.
Yeah. And I had been to my first boyfriend who brought me here. He had shown me, it was a school where he went for the herb shop, really. That was an acupuncture school. And I said, well, because I used to, when I did ceramics in Venezuela, I used to go for acupuncture once a week because of, keep my neck and keep relaxed. And I said, well, why not go to acupuncture school? one thing more. When I was I had a job I never got a job as an engineer because they didn't hire women engineers. So I got a job at the hospital in Lund is the city. It's a teaching hospital, university. And there I saw my old friends going to school. I said, oh, shit. I chose the wrong thing. That's what I realized I wanted to be a doctor. That's when I realized that that's really what I would have liked to be. But my father always wanted me to be an actress. So I kind of got sidetracked because of that. And this is going back and forth when I remember things. And I worked at one point as in the theater as when you tell people when they forget their lines. I don't remember what that word is. And how all these old guys, they wanted to go to bed with me. So I didn't want to do that. So that's why that was really why I started to do the engineering thing. So
So you wanted to be a doctor.
yeah, so then I said, okay, acupuncture, because I loved acupuncture. So I signed up for acupuncture and had to get my papers from Sweden and from my education and so forth. I don't even know how I dared to sign up because I really didn't have any money. But everything in my life, in one way or another, even though I thought I was like down and didn't see a way out, something always happened. And it so to go back to the school, how I dared to sign up, I just did it. Then I met on the beach, I met a woman. I was meditating and all of a sudden I hear somebody who say, what are you doing? And I look up and it was this woman who used to be a singer, and she used to work on the beach until they realized she was, and until they realized she was Jewish. And there was something during that time you couldn't live on the beach if you were Jewish, something like that. Anyway, we became very good friends, and I helped her a lot. She had cancer, and I liked her, and people always thought I was her daughter. And she was the one who helped me. I mean, I started to work also while I was going to school, but she helped me with the economics, so it's always something that helped me out. And she died, and she gave me money she had money in her will for me so I could pay for the school. Things like that, always something
There's
happened.
a guardian angel you've got
Yes.
watching over you, isn't
Yeah.
there? Yes.
Yeah.
I think we all have. It's just getting in touch.
That is the thing, to get in touch, because sometimes you forget. I think I often forget to ask. And they are all there. And it is all there.
So when did you graduate from acupuncture school?
95.
95.
Mm-hmm.
And did you start practicing?
Yeah. So in the beginning, I started out of somebody else's office. And eventually in 98, I had my own office, which in a way I regret because it's too much money. It's much better to work with somebody else if you can work with somebody else and give them have whatever part of the deal. Because when you have your own office, there is so many expenses. And it's hard if you take off, if you take vacation, you still have to pay the rent.
Not always easy to be your own boss, is it?
It is easier, yeah. And I mean, I liked my offices too, so I miss in a way not having an office, but So yeah, so that was in 95. And of course, I still didn't have really any money, always working, you know, and paying my bills, working and paying bills. But so far, I'm still here.
So after when you started to work on people doing acupuncture, is that what led you to working with children and autism? Like, how did that all come about? Was it an aha moment for you? Did you
No.
study?
Yeah.
How did you jump from one to the other?
So it's the same thing in a way, but what I found was that some people, they would get acupuncture, they felt great when they left, and they would come back with the same thing, and I couldn't figure out why. If there could be a shoulder problem or sciatica, and I started to do research, and I found that allergies have a big part in health, in gut health, aches and pains, headaches, whatever. They can be from allergies. So I became a practitioner of NATE, which is Nambudripad's allergy elimination technique. And when I started with the allergy, I got one child. The first child I had with autism was through a patient that I had who had, she first sent her son-in-law to me because he had sciatica. He was a policeman. I treated him one time and I never saw him again. So I thought he didn't like it. And then she sent her grandson, who at that time was 5 years old and hardly spoke. I mean, he could not really communicate. He could communicate, but not well. And he couldn't pronounce the words. He had 7 temper tantrums at least a day, and wouldn't use certain clothes. Very difficult child. I mean, he really kind of destroyed the peace in the family. And so the mother came for an initial consultation, and he was running around, and you had to check what he was doing the whole time. And she had a big bag, she pulled up a 3-foot-long red gummy snake.
A what?
Gummy snake. You know, these gummies.
Like licorice?
No, it was sweet, and it was not licorice, but you know, these gummies, but it was a long gummy.
I don't know, but okay.
Yeah. So he was quiet for 15 minutes as long as he was chewing that. And, you know, when I saw that, and it was also red, you know, color, sugar, the worst thing they can eat. And so I kind of said, I realized the mother did not have a clue about food. And so I started to treat him, and in a very short time, he started to talk. His temper tantrums went away. And I didn't follow him, so he was so much better. And then she went to somebody else that was closer to her house that did the treatments. But the grandmother would call me once a year and thank me for saving his life.
Wow.
So about 10 years later, the father brought him in for, I don't remember what he wanted to be treated for. And that was father. And I asked him once, why didn't you come back for the sciatica? I said, no, it went away. I had one treatment. So I said, isn't it wonderful that he's not autistic anymore? Autistic? He was never autistic. He went to the Marino school, you know, for speech therapists. He was definitely autistic. So the father totally denied that or forgot it. And I saw him again, probably 4 years ago or 5, something like that. The son just graduated from university. No problem whatsoever. So that was my first child. And I started to get other kids, also ADHD. And some of them stopped coming because it was too much time and it was too slow. And I said, I have to do something so people can do it on themselves and repeat it if it doesn't, so to speak, stick, and use it for the whole family. Because if one person has allergies, the whole family does. And I think apart from that, I believe that everybody does have allergies. So I started to experiment and did that for probably 5-6 years. And then before I launched my allergy kit, which in the beginning only had 8 vials. So that was in 2006 that I launched the kit. And since then I have developed it. So I have kits for food, for environment, for autism. I have one specific for autism. I think that's the one I sell the most because there's
a lot of people don't know or even understand what you're talking about, having a vial for allergies and what you do with that. Funny enough, my daughter is 53, and when she was young, she was allergic to chicken and eggs, and I didn't know what to do. I was living in Canada at the time, and there was someone that I was able to go to, and I was a surrogate for her. So I held her when we did like this allergy, like you're talking about, the allergy release technique. And she never had a problem after that.
Yeah, no, it is amazing. What happens is, for example, my basic kit, the first vial has egg and chicken, milk, dairy, and vitamin C, and some other stuff. And in this other treatment that you did with your daughter, you start with egg. That's the first treatment. So what it is, it's that you have a vial that is homeopathically imprinted with the frequencies from the egg. So you have an allergy to eggs, so you have that same frequency. So by putting this on you and treating with this vial, I use a laser. Your treatment, they treat the back. This treatment makes these frequencies, these waves, even out. So you won't have that reaction anymore.
So are you saying also that a lot of our aches and pains, upset stomach, mental brain fog and whatnot, and we go to the doctor and we do blood work and whatnot, but it doesn't show allergy. It doesn't come back that we have an allergy to something. No. And you spend years and years suffering.
Yeah.
You continue eating whatever you eat, and your lifestyle doesn't change.
Because so many people, they say, oh, I eat so clean. Well, if you have an allergy to one of the foods you're eating, it's not clean for you. It's not healthy for you. So, for example, you say eggs. Eggs, it's a natural product. It's basic protein. It has a lot of, egg yolk has a lot of good stuff. They have everything but vitamin C. You really can benefit from eating eggs. But so many people are allergic to them. So why doctors, they are not taught anything about allergies. So then we have the allergy specialists who check for, with skin pricks and stuff, which can be very detrimental too. You can get very sick from these pricks too. And they often come up with a whole slur with allergies, but it doesn't come up with the basic ones, which is egg and chicken and milk and vitamin B and sugar. Those things don't come up. I don't know why. So I have often patients who come with their printouts with all the things they are allergic to. And when I do muscle testing, I test the eggs and the chicken, they're all weak. And by treating these basic foods first, so the body can start to build up their immune system, because that's what it's all about. If you have a strong immune system, you don't get the cold, you don't get allergies either.
So Ynge, if you treat this allergy for egg, let's say, does it stay for the rest of your life, or it needs to be repeated later on?
Sometimes it stays for forever. Sometimes something can happen. I had, for example, one patient I had cleared for everything. Then she had a traffic accident and it all came back. But it was so easy to then treat her again. It didn't take I didn't have to do all the treatments. It was just certain things that the shock just, I don't know what to call it. She had a shock. So by treating her again.
Well, it was a trauma to the body, right?
Yeah.
It
so
was
that can happen. So
yeah.
Trauma, and I think also emotional trauma can probably also bring it on again.
Right.
But then it is so much easier to repair it.
So I want to understand better. You don't have your practice, your office space anymore, but you do offer your kits.
Yeah.
So how do people know? First of all, how do they find out about the kit, and how do they know what allergies they have?
Well, the thing is that you don't really need to know what allergies you have, because they all have, as I say, the basic. And for example, my kit, I have, even though I've added one vial, but I have vials 1 through 7 that have to be treated first. So they're not only foods. The first vial has egg, chicken, milk, vitamin C, calcium, a couple of other things, plus parasites, because we're warm-blooded animals. We all have parasites. We are often allergic to their poop and their dead bodies. Sounds yucky, but so that's the first treatment. The next is for vitamin B and sugar. The next treatment, again, the third, is for toxins. I mean, we breathe, we are all toxic. And it has a lot of both chemicals and what do you call it, from cars and airplanes, exhaust, and herbicides, pesticides. So it has a lot, but people often feel better after that.
So what I'm hearing you say is you don't need to know specifically, because within those first 7 vials, right? That works for everybody.
That works for everybody. And then people can start to get stronger. And also they get more aware. When they clear these basic allergens, they start to feel better. And then they know, oh, I had that and that affected me. I didn't feel good after I had that, ate that, or drank that. So they get more aware themselves. And I have also added, because I realized that not everybody, but a lot of people are allergic to histamine.
Histamines.
So I now have that as the first vial, is histamine with the mast cell activation. And that seems to work very well, because so many foods, I mean, all the colored foods have histamine.
So is it easy for people to do this at home?
It's very easy. And that's exactly why I developed it, so people can do it on themselves. I should have a laser here, but I don't. The laser is like a pen. It's a specific laser for the body, for the body's frequency. So you take the vial, and I also always use a stress vial, because when you have anything, all your cells in the body are under stress. I created this vial because I had one patient who never could relax, and I had kind of redo the treatments because she didn't accept the treatment. Her body didn't accept the treatments. So I started to use the stress vial on her. That changed everything.
Wow.
Now every kit has a stress vial, which you can also use separately if you feel stressed, but you use that with every vial. And so you use the laser and these vials, and you put them on over your belly button, and shine through the vials over the midline of the head, which is connected to the spine. You know, they treat the spine. This treats the spine in a different way. You do the laser on the ears because the ear is microcosmic, or what do you call that? This holographic picture of the body.
I didn't know that. Wow.
It's an upside down baby. This is the butt. This is the head. And here you find the legs, and in here you have the nose and inner, plus the ear is where the vagus nerve is closest to the body, to the surface of the body. So by treating the ear, you treat the whole body. So you do the ears, you go back to the belly button, and you do this 7 times. It takes less than 10 minutes. And then when people do it at home, I recommend that they do it after dinner, because it makes them a little sleepy. It makes them, everybody who does it, sleep better that night. And during the night, you are not in contact with these foods. When you come to dust and dust mites, for example, of course, then you have to shift and do it maybe several times, once in the night and once in the morning.
It sounds so
too simple. Too simple.
Too simple and out there, and yet, you know, a simple thing like that could make such a difference. It's amazing. I think especially, you know, I'm thinking of the kids. So many kids, you know, are given Ritalin and all these other things, you know, and they're hyper and their brain doesn't you know, and people don't realize
that is what they eat.
The food makes such a difference.
And for example, milk, that's an allergy that creates ear infections. And how many kids don't get antibiotics or tubes? They could either eliminate the milk or eliminate the allergy. And the same with dust and dust mites. Kids who wake up in the middle of the night or in the morning and have difficulties breathing or coughing or something, that's an allergy to dust mites. So there are so many little things that nobody bothers to investigate.
No, I think that unfortunately it's up to the parent to be open, to be that investigator, and to say, I need to find out what is out there. What can I do for my child, rather than just thinking of, you know,
listening to the doctor, because many doctors, they say it's not curable. There is nothing to do. I don't say I cure it, and every kid, they all react differently, but they all get better digestive systems and better temper. So even if they still don't talk, because there are so many different reasons, and I mean, they haven't even realized what some of the reasons are why they get autistic. I personally think that all these heavy vaccinations they have done now for how many generations? 3 generations, I would think. That makes each generation weaker. They don't have the immune system. I mean, doctors say that the vaccinations give them a stronger immune system, and that is a total lie. It is the opposite. And there are many parents who try, but then there are many who listen to their doctors and they accept it, and okay, it's not curable. I have to live with this. When there are many things they can do to alleviate.
Well, that's why as kids, we used to say, you know, let your kids play in the sandbox. And it's okay to eat a little bit of sand, because they then develop an immunity for dirt, you know,
Exactly.
if you
Yeah,
always
they did a few studies in Sweden that I know of. I don't know about the ones here, all of them, but this was so obvious that kids who grew up on farms and ate shit, literally, they had much, much less allergies. The same with people who have, it's funny, with dishwashers, families who had dishwashers had more allergies in their kids.
really,
It's
wow.
too clean. It's too clean. We need the bacteria for growing our immune system.
Wow. Wow. So I see you have a book there. It's
Yes.
hard for me to read. Finding Your Lost Child.
Yeah. Finding Your Lost Child. Understanding allergies, nutrition, and detox in kids on the spectrum, and autism and ADHD.
So is this recommended to parents who think there's something going on with their kids? Is that what you wrote it for?
Yes. And not only for kids. The funny thing is I have a nephew in Sweden who has his fiancée, who is a famous, she has won the European Song Festival a couple of times. She found the book because I was in I think in 2018, I was in Sweden. I brought a lot of books for everybody to read. Of course, nobody read it. And she did, this girl did. She read it and she said, it saved my life.
Wow.
So I think a lot of people, they are also a little ADD, but they don't know. And so now it's much easier for, first of all, her digestive system. She followed the rules or the suggestions in the book, which has a lot to do with food. And she realized that could affect her feelings, her reactions, and all that. She hasn't done the kit, but she just read the book and said, as I said, it saved my life.
So Ynge, if you wanted to give one or two pearls of wisdom to our people that are watching that you feel are really important for them to pay attention to, or you have the answer to, what would it be?
Well, when it comes to food, number one, I think is eat organic. Number two, every morning you wake up, don't just get up. Give thanks that you wake up. And scan your body, how you feel. And maybe even write it down. And during the day, pay attention to if you feel different after eating some food, if you want to fall asleep at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, or if you have any kind of headaches or energy, maybe the other way, up or down. Just pay attention to what's happening in your body. Because I think that's one thing that we forget, is to check in with ourselves. And we do have a lot of answers if we listen.
So
the same thing in the evening, write down if you had a reaction from something you ate, or if you felt a certain way, if you felt sad or happy. All these things can be affected by the food we eat.
So you're saying that if I'm feeling down, low energy or sad or brain fogged or whatever, it might be the food that I ate yesterday or today?
Yes, absolutely. And for example, depression. You know, we have this vagus nerve and it goes between the brain and the gut. And it really, the signals go mainly from the gut to the brain. So if your digestive system is upset and doesn't really work as it should, it sends signals to the brain and you feel sad and you get depressed. So when people are depressed, they go to the shrink, but they look in the wrong place. They should start to look at the digestion. What do they eat? Do they eat all this processed food, all this sugary food, which is no nutrition? It's just calories, make you gain weight, but not feel good.
Well, it takes me back, you know, the expression, trust your gut,
Yeah,
or I have a gut feeling,
yes, all these things.
but we don't extrapolate that. I have a gut feeling. We don't really say, okay, what is my gut saying? What did I feed my gut?
Yeah,
You know, it's just a saying, but maybe it's a lot deeper than that.
yeah. No, it is really very deep. And I have heard of a couple of psychiatrists who have taken dived deeper into nutrition, and I'm sure they have much better results.
Wow. Thank you. That is so amazing. That is so amazing. And I'm sure that there are people watching that have learned something new today. Of course, Ynge's book is available, and her allergy kit, I guess, is available online. I don't know, where do they get
Yeah, so the book
kit?
they can get on Amazon. I think it's quite cheap. And otherwise, they can go to theallergykit.com, and there is a button they can make an appointment. And if they want to talk to me, so
if somebody gets a kit, do they get a consultation with
yes.
you?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Some people I talk quite often to until they get it's everybody's different. Somebody understands it immediately. For others, it's more a little woo-woo and a little hard to understand that can be that simple.
No, but that's great to know, so that, you know, some people might think, oh my goodness, I'm going to get this kit and it comes on from online, and now what do I do? And I don't know. So you are there available to them to coach them through it.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
great.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, thank you, Ynge. This has been absolutely amazing today. And let everybody know how old you are.
Only 87.
Wow. Wow. That's amazing. That's amazing. So
I think when you do what you love and you keep learning, that's when I stop learning, that's the time I go to the next level.
that's beautiful. All right. Have a blessed day. Thank you. Bye-bye, everybody.